Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session on the Discrete
Joining the conference.
Improvement levers. And first off, I'd like to introduce the speakers of the session today. So we're going to move on to the next slide. So this is Mike Foster. I'm the sales director here in Edmonton for Ideaca. And we'll have Frank Stevens joining us from our Toronto office. Frank's a senior ERP consultant with about 25 years of ERP systems and implementation experience and a Microsoft certified professional. I've got over 20 years of application development and implementing multiple ERP packages, including SAP, Oracle, and Dynamics AX. Prior to joining Ideaca 5 years ago, I was the IT director for a high-tech manufacturing company. So again, good morning to everyone that's in Alberta and BC, and good afternoon to everybody east of that. We've got a number of companies and folks from across the country, so I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day today. And I'd like to make sure that we confirm that no one is having any issues seeing the presentation.
Joining the conference.
Bill.
All right, I don't think we have any issues as far as I'm aware. So to move on to the next slide, our webinar objectives today, we are going to provide a brief introduction to Ideaca, just a couple slides, just so you have a little bit of an understanding of who we are and where we're coming from. Then Frank's going to dive into looking at a number of different manufacturing reports and summarizing some of the key issues and challenges that organizations are facing. And then we're going to take a look at a couple of ways that we are able to address those challenges or those improvement levers with a product called IDART, which is based on Microsoft Dynamics AX. Following that, we can have certainly have time for questions and follow up with any issues that folks are having. Next slide. Okay, so briefly, Ideaca is a Canadian-based consulting company, and we're across Canada with over 170 people in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, and Toronto, as it says there. We focus primarily on implementation services. However, we recognize and we work with companies in providing them advisory services and also ongoing support services across the range of services that you see on the left, including ERP packages such as Dynamics AX, CRM, business intelligence, portals and collaboration. Many people are using SharePoint for that, custom development, and right through into some of the technical infrastructure side of things. So again, we're a Canadian-based company that focus on everything from the strategy to solution. As a Microsoft Gold partner, we're well qualified in many of those areas. Okay, so on the next slide, just waiting for the slide to show up. Hope everyone's seeing this okay. Just to let you have a little bit of an insight into the manufacturing practice that we do have, we've provided a range of services from the service offering on the previous slide in terms of ERP and customer relationship management systems, portal tools, and custom development to a range of customers in Canada. As you can see by all the logos we've added to the bottom of the slide there, including ZCL here in Edmonton, Envisioneering and VicWest in Toronto. Tech is based out of Calgary, etc. So we have a number of companies, again, across Canada that we're
joining the conference,
providing expertise to in the manufacturing space. We're quite proud of our on-time and on-delivery budget, and we often say to our consultants we want every customer to be a reference customer. Additionally, we're members of the Canadian Manufacturing and Exporters Association, and we're proud to be part of that group. All right, so one other thing, I guess, of pointing out there in the bottom of the slide in terms of benefits driven, we also work with our customers to make sure that we're focusing on benefits that they will achieve through their implementations, and we're not just trying to slam in a huge solution that is more than what they require. So, again, we're looking for opportunities where customers will drive value out of their implementations. Okay, so beyond that, that's a brief introduction to Ideaca. I'd like to hand over the session to Frank in Toronto to pick up and take a look and deeper dive into the manufacturing reports. Frank?
All right, great. Thanks, Mike. So based on a recently published report on the outlook for 2010, some of the people surveyed actually indicated that, revenues had decreased in 2009, but there was optimism that in 2010 they were going to see some increases. Good news there. The TD Bank actually has forecasted that 2% is probably going to be the new normal. And, half of the respondents indicated that competition is still really their top revenue constraint. We see companies are continuing to look south, South America, Europe, China, India to satisfy their needs. And unsurprisingly, we see that in 2010, the strategy is still on process improvement. And that's fairly standard, been there forever. The next slide, the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters Association completed a survey, and when you look at who they surveyed, there was a broad base of companies from across Canada. 62% were from Ontario. If you look at the sectors, they covered fabricated metals, food, machinery, equipment, printing. It was a broad base response. About 80% of the respondents all kind of participate in a North American supply chain, which really means that it's an environment that they know. The language is the same. They can focus on process improvement and not really have to worry so much about extreme time changes or language barriers, etc. So supply chain is within their grasp. If you look at in terms of annual sales, 40% of them were small manufacturers up to about $5 million a year. Another 25%, between $5 and $25 million. And when you look at it, about 85% were all, less than $100 million a year in sales. So they're, regular, everyday manufacturers just struggling to try and make a profit. When they were further queried, there we go, slide, sorry. When they were further queried, they expressed that some of their most challenging issues were basically going to be keeping costs under control, and that was about 57%. About another 25% said that they were focused on
joining the conference,
improving production processes or making their production processes more flexible, and another 25% were concerned about changing customer demands. Next slide. Further, when you look at the key determinants of growth and profitability, managing material costs. That was pretty much at the top of the list, with about 60% of the respondents saying that was a major concern. Reducing operating costs was another 53%. Improving customer service, still right up there, just under 50%. What we also see is that about a third of the respondents indicated that they needed to improve information systems to help respond to the needs moving forward. If we look at barriers to improving flexibility, there are a number of them, and I kind of categorize them into variable and semi-variable categories. If we think about things that are variable, we have seasonality, we have the unpredictability of the manufacturing process. Things just happen day to day. We also have issues around errors. So if you're forecasting errors in the forecast, just not having a 100% grasp on what's going to be coming at you. Some of the less variable things are lead times. They tend to be fairly fixed, and everybody's working to reduce them, but they are what they are. And the next one would be capacity. It's very difficult to bring capacity online quickly, so those are less variable. At the end of the day, we're seeing that a number of companies have inadequate information systems and feedback mechanisms for them to get in front of these challenges. So all of this really speaks to the importance of understanding your supply chain, the supply and demand relationships, being able to identify any kind of changes that are coming at you early, and being able to understand the impact of those changes. So we need some better tools and better processes to deal with all these issues. As we turn and we start to look at how we can optimize manufacturing, we can look at a couple of levers in the areas of improving cost of goods sold or cost of goods manufactured, however you want to cut it. In the area of materials management, some of the specific things that we can really start to focus on internally, we need to be looking at our procurement cycle time. So this is the amount of time it takes from when you know you need something to getting the message out the door to have it delivered. So we need to be looking at, who's doing what? Are we doing things that are non-value added, approvals and so forth? Can we flatten this procurement cycle to shorten the lead times? I've seen some vendors and customers in relationships where the actual vendor actively participates, and there really isn't a need to cut a purchase order each time you want to receive something from the vendor once a week. So look at ways to get rid of that. We also continue to look at reducing lead times, and that's an ongoing activity. We can evaluate vendor-managed inventory, consignment inventory as mechanisms to kind of shorten that lead time. We need to improve our demand forecasting skills and the tools. So the skills for the people using the tools and the tools themselves. Can't tell you how many times I see, a ton of spreadsheets, Excel being used to kind of keep track of stuff, and then people trying to coordinate it all. It just makes it very difficult to be able to respond quickly and effectively to changes in the marketplace. We need to rationalize ordering quantities and delivery timing. So having the ability to group orders. So it's important to be able to group orders to maximize your operational efficiency, your throughput, but we still need to be able to maintain the link between the specific, say, production order and the customer order that it's satisfying. That way we'll be able to respond to any changes in the customer order very specifically.